In about 3 minutes. We're going to get started in about 3 minutes to let everyone in, make sure we get everyone on time. So it's 6:33. We will start the HSA webinar. Okay, everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Elvis, and I am from Valley Schools. We are your consultants. Welcome to the webinar for your Optum Financial. We're going to have Q&A at the very end, so if you can please hold your questions. Tonight we have Celeste, who is from Optum, who will be doing the presentation, and we also have your TUSD benefit team also joining. So if you have any questions, like I said, please wait till the very end, and we will get all your questions answered. And with that, I will go ahead and let Celeste get started. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Elvis. And thank you, everyone, for taking the time to join this evening. As Elvis said, my name is Celeste Herder, and I am a relationship executive with Optum Financial. Basically, my primary role is to help assist clients and their employees with understanding the HSA and how it works and how it can work better for them. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Oh, sorry, my slides were not advancing. All right, so first, I always like to kind of start off with just doing a high-level overview of what an HSA is. So maybe you have had an HSA for several years and you're already familiar with how it works, or maybe you're considering enrolling in an HSA for the first time during this year's open enrollment. So I always just like to kind of give that quick refresher. So an HSA, or a health savings account, is an account that lets you deposit pre-tax dollars to pay for your qualified medical, dental, and vision expenses. So if you are a first-time enrollee, then you would sign up during open enrollment, which is currently taking place, when you enroll in a qualifying high-deductible health plan. Now, if you're already enrolled in an HSA, there's no need to re-enroll each benefit year. Contributions to your account up to the annual limit are tax-free. The HSA also allows you to save on out-of-pocket costs, so you can spend your HSA dollars on hundreds of different items, things like glasses, prescription refills, doctor visits, and even more. You can also choose to invest a portion of your health savings account balance. We have different investment options at Optum Bank that we'll talk about in a little bit more detail later, but options like mutual funds and also our Betterment offering. So investing your HSA dollars has many potential tax benefits for you and also can be an additional way to help you save towards your long-term healthcare needs and financial goals. And then lastly, one of the really great and unique features of an HSA that sort of sets it apart from other types of health benefit accounts is that the money is yours to keep. So your HSA dollars always carry over from year to year, even if you switch jobs or you retire. Whatever money is in that account is your money to keep and to spend on your qualified medical expenses. So here we just take a little closer look at the tax savings with an HSA. So the HSA offers tax savings in three ways. And this is what we often refer to as the triple tax savings advantage of an HSA. So the first way is that contributions to your HSA are made on either a pre-tax or a tax deductible basis. So they are pre-tax when made by payroll deduction. So this is what you would do through your employer, where you would elect an amount per pay period that you would want withheld from your paycheck to be deposited into your HSA. So that's a pre-tax contribution. They can also be tax deductible if you contribute from a personal account, and then what you would do during tax time is you would take what's called an above the line deduction, and that's something your tax advisor could help advise you on. But regardless of how you make those contributions, they're always tax free. And then you also realize income tax-free earnings on any interest because it's a true savings account, so it earns interest just like your savings accounts at your your local bank. And then also, if you do decide to invest a portion of your funds and those investments have earnings, then those investment earnings are also going to be tax-free. And then lastly, when you withdraw money from your HSA, that's also on an income tax-free basis, as long as you use that money to pay for qualified medical expenses. So together, this is the triple tax savings of the HSA, where the savings can really add up over time. One thing, and especially when we are talking about HSAs and taxes, we do always have to note that HSAs are tax exempt for purposes of your federal income tax filings. HSAs are also tax exempt for most state income tax filings. However, some states do tax HSA contributions and even potentially the earnings and capital gains. So we do always advise, especially if it's your first time enrolling in an HSA, that you consult your tax advisor regarding your state's specific rules. I will say, though, as a side note, I'm not aware of any state-specific rules for the state of Arizona when it comes to HSAs, that there's any taxation. So you should be okay.
That is the best news all night. Thank you.
Although, again, I'm not a tax advisor, so.
I'll take that with a grain of salt. Thanks.
All right, so here we have an example of what those tax savings could mean to you. So here we have Jake, and we see how he uses his HSA throughout his lifetime. So at age 27, he gets an HSA with his new job, and he begins to contribute $100 a month. Since he considers himself fairly healthy, he does not touch his balance, but continues to contribute each year. Then at age 40, he begins using his account to pay for healthcare expenses at about $500 a year. So then when he retires at age 65, he has a balance of just under $34,000 in his account. And then in addition to that balance he's accrued over the years, he's also saved $356 each year on taxes. Right. So you can use your HSA to pay for things like expenses towards your deductible and co-pays if you have them as part of your plan. But your HSA also covers you and your family and any tax dependents for a wide variety of items and services. So it's going to cover regular medical expenses like hospital charges, prescriptions, as most people would expect, but the list of eligible items is really just very expansive beyond that. And so you can see some of the items that are listed here. However, we do have a much more comprehensive list online at our site at optumbank.com. And here is where we have one of our online tools. It's called the Qualified Medical Expense Search Tool. And you can use this tool to enter any kind of expense. There's thousands of items in this tool, everything from kind of like generic items to even like name brands or prescriptions that you can enter, again, to check and verify that it's a qualified expense. And then this tool also, I'll say, so it's available on our retail site at optumbank.com. So even if you're not enrolled in the HSA, it's available to you to use. And then it's also accessible through the member portal or through our mobile app if you do have an HSA and you log in through there. So it's also important to understand the types of expenses that aren't covered by your HSA. So some examples would include things like cosmetic surgery, teeth whitening. One thing that we get asked about often is health club fees. So those types of expenses typically are not going to be covered by your HSA or not going to be considered qualified by IRS standards. So again, you can also learn more about expenses that don't qualify for the HSA through that qualified medical expense tool at optumbank.com. So one thing to note is that if you do use your HSA to pay for non-qualified expenses, then there are certain penalties that you are going to be subject to. So if you are less than 65 years old, then you would pay income tax on any funds that you use for those non-qualified medical or the non-qualified expenses. And then also the IRS is going to assess a 20% tax penalty on those funds. Now, if you are 65 or older, then you do not have to pay the tax penalty, but you still do have to pay income tax because those funds are no longer considered tax-free. So the IRS is going to determine the maximum amount that you can contribute to an HSA each year. So the chart on the left just really, is sort of, to be used as a guide. So if you are trying to determine how much you want to contribute each year, these are some questions that you could ask yourself. But again, also just keeping in mind that the funds never expire in your HSA. So regardless of how much you contribute and what's left over at the end of the year, those funds are just going to continue to accrue and build in your account, which is a good thing. So so there's no risk of they use it or lose it like there might be with an FSA account. So for 2023, you can contribute up to $3,850 for individual coverage and $7,750 for family coverage. And then in 2024, the current year, the contribution limits have increased to $4,150 if you are in individual coverage, and then $8,300 if you are in family coverage. And the reason that we have both years' contribution limits still on here is because also with the HSA, you are permitted to make prior year contributions up until the tax filing deadline. So with April 15th very quickly approaching within the next few days, you actually do still have time to make, if you have not already made contributions up to the contribution limit for 2023, you actually do have the opportunity where you could make a prior year contribution if you wanted to max out that contribution limit for the year. Also, if you enroll in the HSA for 2024, then your employer is also going to provide an employer contribution to you. And this is going to be $1,200, and it's prorated based on your date of hire. And then you also have the opportunity to earn a $300 wellness incentive, and this is for members who establish eligibility through the wellness program and then also are enrolled in the high deductible health plan. And then lastly, for contributions, when you are age 55 or older, you also have the opportunity to make what's called a catch-up contribution to your HSA. And this is something that the IRS has put in place, basically, for members who are approaching retirement or Medicare eligibility as a way to just kind of build that balance in your HSA. So you can contribute an additional $1,000 a year if you are 55 or older. And then also, if both you and a spouse are 55 or older, you can both contribute the additional $1,000. In order to do this, what would need to happen is your spouse would need to open his or her own HSA in order to make that catch up contribution. And that could be, they could open it with OPTUM Bank if they wanted to, or they could open it with any bank or vendor who offers HSA accounts in order to make that extra $1,000 catch-up contribution. So to be eligible for an HSA, you must have a high deductible health plan or an HDHP that meets IRS guidelines. So we always recommend that you refer to your open enrollment materials for more details about your options for HSA eligible health plans. And then you can see other requirements that are listed here too that you must meet in order to be eligible to contribute to an HSA. So a little known but very powerful feature of an HSA is that you can also invest a portion of your HSA funds. So investing gives you a way to really just make your money work harder for you longer term. So once you meet the investment threshold, which is $2,000, then you can choose to invest in $100 increments above that threshold. So OPTUM Bank offers different types of options for different types of investors. So the first option that we offer is mutual funds. So if you feel comfortable with mutual funds and kind of having more control over your investments, then we have a wide variety of over 30 different mutual funds to choose from. Our funds have an average 4-star Morningstar rating, also some of the lowest expense ratios in the industry. And then you can also get help deciding which funds are right for you when you become eligible to invest. There's a tool available called the Asset Allocation Calculator, and that will kind of help guide you on how to set up your asset allocation and which funds, just based on your risk tolerance, how far you are from retirement, which funds might be the best fit for you. Now, if you would like kind of more guidance with the investment experience, we have another option also available, and this is support that's offered through Betterment. So Betterment is the largest independent online financial advisor, and based on your response to a brief online questionnaire on things like your kind of your financial goals, your risk tolerance, where you think you might be residing in retirement, what state you're going to be residing in. Betterment then is going to create a customized portfolio of exchange traded funds for you. So Betterment can help you then keep your investments on track through features like auto deposits and then also automated rebalancing. So it kind of takes the guesswork out of it, and you don't have to be deciding, every month kind of like what to do with your funds and which ones to trade and which ones to switch over to other funds. So when the time comes to use your invested funds, whether it's through mutual funds or Betterment, you always have the option then to sell those funds and move that money back to your HSA cash balance, and then you can use those funds to pay for your qualified medical expenses. Then on the right-hand side, we just have an example of an employee who opens an HSA at age 25. They contribute $3,000 a year, but use only $1,500 for their expenses. And so then you can see where based kind of assuming an average rate of return of 7%, where these funds can grow to nearly $300,000 by age 65. And then the growth could, of course, be even more if the HSA remains untouched for any number of years. So you've heard me mention a few times throughout the IRS, and so because the IRS is involved with the HSA, it's also important to know about sort of what some of the requirements are for you as an HSA account holder during tax time. There are some tax forms that you need to be aware of, and one that needs to be filed with your Form 1040. So there are three tax forms that are associated with the HSA. So the first one is the IRS Form 8889. So this form you complete and you file with your tax return to report your total HSA contributions and distributions for the tax year. So this form you can download it through your Optum Bank HSA account, but it's also available. I mean, you can Google it and download it as well, so you don't need to get it from your HSA account. The other two forms that are also going to be important for you when you're filing your taxes is IRS Form 1099 SA and 5498 SA. So the 1099 is going to show the total distributions that were made from your HSA during the year. So if you had any distributions in 2023, then Optum Bank would have sent you this form in January. However, it's also going to be available if you log into your account and you go under forms, it's going to be available for you to download from there as well. And then the last form is the 5498. So this is going to report the total contributions made to your HSA for the tax year. So Optum submits this form directly to the IRS, and then it's typically available to you at the end of January. Now, if you do make any additional contributions for the tax year, or you make any sort of corrections or withdrawals for the prior year, which you're allowed to do up until the tax filing deadline, then you will receive a second form typically in May. And these forms are also available to you online when you sign into your account. Now also, it's important to note that the 1099 and 5498 do not have to be submitted with your tax return. Only the 8889 does. So the 1099 and the 5498, those are really just more kind of for informational purposes, but they are not submitted with your tax return. So you have several different ways that you can access your account through Optum Bank. So the first one is the online portal, and this gives you easy access to all of your account information, different educational tools, your tax forms, and then you can also do things like check your account balance. You can pay providers directly from your account using our pay a provider online feature. And then you can also reimburse yourself from your account. So for example, maybe you pay for a prescription, you're at the pharmacy and you don't have your HSA payment card with you, so you just go ahead and pay out of pocket. Then later what you can do is you can reimburse yourself from your HSA, and this is very easy to do online through your account. And then also, you do have the ability to view your HSA balance through the umr.com portal. However, to really access any of kind of the features of the HSA, like reimbursing yourself or paying providers, things like that, then you need to sign in through optumbank.com. We also recommend downloading our mobile app. So you can download this from the App Store or from Google Play, depending on if you have an Apple or an Android phone. And this is also a really great way to, again, just very conveniently to check your account balance. You can also make payment requests through the mobile app. One of the things that I use the mobile app for most frequently is for saving receipts, just because I find that a lot easier to take a picture of the receipt with my phone's camera and save it to my app right there, versus trying to remember to like scan it or something and save it through my online portal. So that's I think one of the kind of nice convenient features of the mobile app. And then lastly, you'll receive a payment card. So the payment card works just like any other debit or check card that you have, and it's the easiest, really most convenient way to pay out of your HSA, because it's going to work at thousands of retailers and healthcare providers nationwide, anywhere that accepts the MasterCard logo. So as I mentioned, we do have both our mobile app and our online web portal. And so if you are someone who already has the HSA, then you may have noticed last year that we made some updates to our mobile app for 2023. So it's sort of has kind of a new and refreshed look. And then those same updates are going to be made to the online member portal here in the second quarter. So just something to kind of be on the lookout for, that you might, when you log in, you might notice that it looks a little bit differently. All of the same functionality is there, just sort of a new look and feel to it. So the HSA can be, again, a really great way for you to save towards your retirement expenses. So a lot of studies show that healthcare expenses are one of the top financial worries for people in retirement. So again, with the HSA, you're going to have that triple tax savings advantage. And this is a great way for you to kind of, alongside other types of retirement accounts that you may have, to save for expenses in retirement. So our health savings checkup tool can be accessed directly from your main dashboard after you log into your account. And this is a really great tool that we offer to kind of help you get an estimate of how much money you might actually need to save in retirement towards your healthcare expenses. So the tool is going to kind of lead you through several questions, asking for information, and then information about any health conditions you may have, again, where you plan to reside in retirement, at what age you think you might be retiring at. And then it's going to kind of give you an estimate based on what Medicare should pay, and then also what, again, then what maybe you would still need to make up for in retirement. So it's, again, a really great tool that's available at optumbank.com, and that I myself usually use it once a year, even though I'm several years away from retirement. But it's always, it's always good, no matter how old or young you are, to kind of, be planning and thinking ahead. And this tool also is available at our retail site at optumbank.com, as well as through the member portal when you log in. So you do not have to be enrolled in an HSA to use this. And then here we just have some common questions about Medicare and HSA eligibility that we often get asked. So a few of those are going to include questions like, do I lose my HSA eligibility at age 65? So no, you do not lose your HSA eligibility. You can still continue to contribute to an HSA at age 65 or older, as long as you meet HSA eligibility requirements. What does impact your HSA eligibility is when you enroll in Medicare. So enrollment in any part of Medicare, because Medicare is not an HSA qualifying option, then means you can no longer make contributions to an HSA, even if you're enrolled in Medicare and a high deductible health plan. And then another common question that we often get asked is, if you and your spouse are both enrolled in your employer's HSA plan, and then one person enrolls in Medicare, basically, can the other spouse open an HSA? And the answer is yes, as long as that other spouse is otherwise HSA eligible. So you don't have to be like the primary subscriber of the medical plan to be HSA eligible and to open an HSA and contribute to it. Also, an important part of kind of planning ahead and planning, with your HSA, is also making sure that you designate a beneficiary for your account. So it's very easy to do, just takes a few minutes. You sign into your account either through the member portal. You can also do this through the mobile app, and designate a beneficiary for your HSA in the event that you pass away. And then you have the option to have that beneficiary, and then that's what what happens then is it keeps that HSA money tax sheltered for the beneficiary, so then they do not have to pay taxes on those funds, especially if they're a non-spouse. So here are a few other common questions with HSAs. So who owns your HSA? You do. So the HSA is an individually owned account. Your employer does not own the account. The money is yours, so you own that account and it's yours to keep. Do you need to keep receipts for your HSA? So this one is it's a little different than an FSA where oftentimes you're required to substantiate a claim. With the HSA, Optum Bank is never going to ask or require you to submit a receipt because again, it's an individually owned account. So it's really up to you to make sure you're using the funds for what they're intended for. However, we do highly recommend that you save receipts just because in the event that you are ever audited by the IRS, that is one of the things that they are going to want to see is that you have been using your HSA for qualified medical expenses. So it is very important to make sure that you're saving your receipts. And again, we do offer the online receipt vault at optumbank.com that's attached to your account where you can save those seats and store them online through your account, which is very convenient, and then you don't have to kind of keep a lot of paper receipts. And then also, if you already have an HSA, can you open another one? And the answer is yes. And you can actually also, you can consolidate those HSAs. So if maybe you have an HSA like with a prior employer and you want to move that one over and combine it with your one at optumbank.com, you can do that. And we have like a transfer form that you would complete to consolidate those accounts. And then here we just have your open enrollment dates so this is the time where you would enroll in your HSA. And if you're enrolling in a high deductible health plan, just make sure that you also enroll in the HSA so that you can start taking advantage of those savings and tax benefits. So that concludes the presentation portion. If there's any questions, then I think we have some time for, I guess, Q&A.
Yes, thank you so much. That presentation was great. I learned a lot because I was going to go and see if I can use my HSA for the gym membership, which no, I can't. But I did find out you can have a LMN, which is a letter of medical necessity. So if I was going to go to the pool, use the pool, I could actually use my HSA, but it's only good for 1 year. So you have to make sure that you check in, check online and check with your doctor to get the medical note. So we do have one question that popped up here, and it says for year 2023.